From buyer agreements to final compensation alignment. In the previous sections, we focused on buyer-broker agreements, how they are created, executed, and how they establish your right to compensation. Now we arrive at the final piece of the puzzle. The seller compensation addendum is where everything comes together at the transaction level. This is not just another form. This is the document that connects your buyer-broker agreement to the actual closing of the transaction. If your buyer-broker agreement is the promise of compensation, this addendum is the confirmation of how that compensation will be paid in this specific deal. The big picture, why this form exists. In today's real estate environment, compensation is no longer assumed or offered through blanket systems. It must be negotiated, documented, and agreed upon within each transaction. The seller compensation addendum is used to clearly establish what the seller is agreeing to pay the buyer's broker. This ensures transparency between all parties and eliminates confusion at closing. Who is creating the addendum? Why it matters. At the top of the form, it identifies who originated the addendum: seller, buyer, landlord, or tenant. This matters because it reflects who initiated the compensation conversation. In practice, this is often driven by the buyer's side to ensure that compensation aligns with the buyer-broker agreement. Parties and property, tying it to the contract. The addendum identifies the buyer, the seller, the property. This connects the addendum directly to the purchase contract or lease agreement. This is critical because compensation is now tied to a specific transaction, not just a general agreement. The core of the form, defining seller-paid compensation. This is the most important section of the addendum. It clearly states that the seller agrees to pay compensation to the broker representing the buyer. The compensation can be structured as a percentage of the purchase price, a flat dollar amount, or lease-based compensation. This is where everything must align with what we have already discussed. The most important rule, it must match the buyer-broker agreement. This is where agents must be extremely careful. The compensation outlined in this addendum must match the buyer-broker agreement, be consistent in structure and amount, be clearly disclosed and agreed to by all parties. If it does not match, you create confusion, disputes, potential loss of commission. This ties directly back to the previous section. Alignment is not optional. It is required for protection. Compensation is separate from seller concessions. The form makes it clear that broker compensation is, in addition to any seller concessions. This is an important distinction. Concessions benefit the buyer, closing costs, rate buydowns, etc., while compensation is payment for brokerage services. Blending the two creates confusion and potential compliance issues. Consent to compensation from multiple sources. This addendum also includes consent for the broker to receive compensation from more than one party. This is critical in today's environment where compensation may come from the seller, the buyer, or a combination of both. This ensures transparency and proper authorization. Third-party beneficiary. Why this language matters. The form states that brokers are intended to be third-party beneficiaries of the contract. In simple terms, this means the broker has a direct right to the compensation outlined in the agreement. This strengthens the enforceability of the compensation terms and provides additional protection to the broker. Survival. After closing, protection beyond the transaction. The addendum specifies that its provisions survive closing. This means, even after the transaction is complete, the compensation agreement remains enforceable. This is another layer of protection that ensures agents are paid according to the agreed terms. Execution, the final step, before closing. Just like every agreement we have discussed, this addendum must be signed by all required parties, properly included in the contract file. This is typically completed during the contract stage, but must be reviewed again before close of escrow. The real-world risk, where deals fall apart. An agent has a fully executed buyer-broker agreement for 3%. The seller compensation addendum is written for 2.5%. No one addresses the difference. At closing, the issue surfaces. Who pays the difference? Was it disclosed? Was it agreed to? Now there is confusion, delay, and potential loss of income. This is exactly how commissions are lost, not from lack of effort, but from lack of alignment. The professional habit, final file review. Before QOE, before every closing, a professional agent should confirm the buyer-broker agreement is fully executed. The seller compensation addendum matches the agreement. All compensation is clearly disclosed and documented. This final step is not optional. It is one of the most important risk management practices in today's market. Bringing it all together. This section completes the full picture of compensation in modern real estate transactions. You started by defining your relationship with the buyer. You executed your buyer-broker agreement. Now you confirm how that compensation is being paid in the transaction. Every piece must connect. Agreement, execution, alignment, closing. That is how professional agents ensure they are protected from beginning to end. Online discussion. Question: what is the primary purpose of the seller compensation addendum? Answer: to clearly define what the seller will pay the buyer's broker in a specific transaction. Question: why must this addendum match the buyer-broker agreement? Answer: to ensure consistency, avoid disputes, and protect the agent's right to compensation. Question: what is the biggest risk if compensation is not aligned before closing? Answer: the agent may face delays, disputes, or loss of commission.